Imagine evaluating the safety of a Level 4 autonomous vehicle. The AI driving this car is making split-second decisions in a shadowy, unpredictable urban environment. You're the lead auditor for this company's Stage 1 ISO 42001 certification. But as you review the preliminary dashboard, you hit a critical block. The impact assessments for their highest-risk Level 4 models are missing entirely. Right next to that, 20 AI engineers lack mandatory safety training records. These gaps halt the process immediately. Without those impact assessments, a Stage 2 certification cannot proceed. The organization's timeline to bring this vehicle to market is now severely compromised. If you treat this like a standard IT software audit, you assume the primary threats are data breaches or server downtime. But artificial intelligence operates on probabilistic logic, introducing failure modes that traditional software ignores. A Level 4 AI system requires you to audit for issues like model drift, hidden systemic bias, and limits on explainability. The software might perform perfectly in controlled testing, only to degrade catastrophically when exposed to new, unpredictable weather patterns. While on-site interviews are vital for a final evaluation, they cannot rescue an audit that has already failed its structural foundation. Success or failure is largely determined during the 30 to 60 days of pre-audit planning, where these critical gaps must be identified. To see how those gaps should have been caught, we need to rewind the clock. 60 days prior to the audit, we start with a clean slate. ISO 19011 provides a strict 7-step pre-audit blueprint that directly applies to ISO 42001. It replaces assumptions with a rigidly structured investigation. The auditor begins by analyzing the organization's specific context and defining the audit scope. From there, they build highly specific checklists, map out timelines, and finally lock down the logistical constraints. By meticulously executing this systematic progression, an auditor forces an opaque technical environment to reveal its internal structures. This planning phase serves as an active exercise in risk mitigation, mapping the compliance landscape before the auditor even arrives on site. ISO 42001, Clause 4.1, demands analyzing context over using out-of-the-box checklists. Internally, the company's 200 engineers and strict safety culture necessitate strong technical controls. Externally, complying with US NHTSA and EU ECE frameworks creates a mandatory cross-compliance check for the audit team. These intersecting internal and external pressures escalate the complexity of the evaluation. To accurately assess 200 engineers working under international safety laws, the lead auditor must deploy a team with advanced technical competency. All of this context data is actively gathered and documented by the lead auditor during Step 2 of the pre-audit process. Failing to map Clause 4.1 accurately means the resulting audit scope will miss catastrophic regulatory risks or waste precious hours verifying operational controls that have no bearing on the system's safety. This strict timeline coordinates the auditee. At 60 days, formal notice locks in scope and dates. At 30 days, a virtual kickoff distributes constraints and requests. It is essential to obtain the AI management system scope and system inventory to draw exact boundaries. You must also request the preliminary risk register. Reviewing this document early allows you to evaluate the organization's maturity in identifying and treating AI-specific threats. The density of that risk register dictates your resource planning. If the register reveals highly complex deep learning models, the audit manager knows they must recruit an external subject matter expert. Waiting until day 7 to confirm IT access, remote VPNs, or secure document repositories invites logistical failure. Without day 1 access, the schedule collapses. Early artifact retrieval and precise communication neutralize information and competence risks before they manifest. You secure evidence and access long before the opening meeting. In an ISO 42001 audit, a checklist serves as a rigorous traceability tool, mapping specific evidentiary artifacts directly back to the requirements of the standard. This 5-step funnel translates abstract clauses into targeted investigations. Step 1 maps a requirement like risk assessment. Step 2 translates it into an operational question about AI-specific risks. Step 3 defines required evidentiary artifacts. Step 4 adds precise sampling instructions, like inspecting 10%. Finally, Step 5 creates a dedicated recording space to log findings, link evidence, and justify the auditor's conclusion. The time directive of this tool is that it is never read aloud to the auditee. It is kept private, structuring a flowing conversational investigation. This five-step engineering process is designed to minimize omissions and maximize traceability. It ensures that when a nonconformity is identified, it is rooted in a specific clause and supported by a strictly documented trail of evidence. A major logistical hurdle arises when an AI inventory lists hundreds of disparate models. Testing 100% of the inventory is physically impossible within a 3-day window. This chart shows risk-based sampling logic. For populations under 10, the auditor tests 100%. Up to 50 models, judgment sampling selects 10 to 15 items. Between 51 and 200 systems, the sample increases to 25 items, heavily stratified by risk. For massive populations over 200 models, achieving a 95% confidence level requires random sampling combined with targeted selections of the highest risk systems. Applying this exact mathematical framework protects the auditor from running out of time, while guaranteeing the most dangerous AI systems are subjected to intense scrutiny. Returning to our autonomous vehicle case study, this document list shows the actual data submitted by the company 30 days prior to the audit. The AIM scope and AI policy are present and accounted for, but the preliminary risk register reveals a critical data point. Out of 45 submitted AI risks, 12 are classified as high risk. Under ISO 42001, high-risk systems trigger a mandatory requirement for detailed AI impact assessments. Applying the risk-based sampling rule for high-risk systems leads the auditor directly to the missing documentation. The required impact assessments simply do not exist yet. The document review exposes a secondary gap. Out of the 200 specialized engineers identified in the context analysis, 20 are missing their crucial training records. Because the lead auditor gathered this intelligence a full month before arriving on site, they escalate these major gaps to the organization's management immediately. This early escalation prevents the on-site audit from turning into a massive waste of resources. It gives the auditee a narrow 30-day window to generate the impact assessments and complete the training before the Stage 2 evaluation begins. By anchoring context, engineering defensible checklists, and applying rigorous risk-based sampling 60 days in advance, auditors create the transparency needed to evaluate complex AI. This protocol doesn't just measure compliance, it forces the critical evidence to the surface, ensuring the final audit report is built on a foundation of technical reality.